let's go off to the DMV.
Oh, it's time to go to the DMV. Time to get the driver's license.
All
I've
right,
been studying all night for it. I'm ready to go.
let's get in the car. Let's go.
Hey! Guess what? They got. I got it. I got it. I finally got my license.
You
I think.
passed. How exciting.
Do I get to drive home? Can I drive home now?
Sure.
I get to go now. I can go over to my friend's house. Can I go? Do you mind if I borrow the car tonight to go see my friends tonight?
Okay, here's the keys.
My friends want to go ride me out to the park today. Can I borrow the car?
Here's the keys.
Hey, I gotta run over to the store grab some stuff for myself. Can I borrow the car again?
Here's the keys.
I want to go with my friends. They're going out to the mall and they wanted me to drive. None of them have got it yet, like I am.
Here's the keys.
Hey, I think I'm gonna try to drive to school today.
Here's the keys. Congratulations on graduating. I've got a gift. Now, here's the first part of it.
Oh, let me open it. Oh, these are keys. Wait a minute. Are these the keys? Are these the keys to our car?
Car keys. Congratulations.
Are these keys, are they for me? I
Look
can
out the
take them?
window.
What? Oh my gosh, there's a car out there for me?
You got your first job, you graduated, and now you're off.
Oh, I got a lot of different places I can go with that. Hey, where are my keys at? I'm looking for have you seen my keys?
Hey, Dad, I think it's time we sit down and have a conversation about something.
So they want to take away my car keys. What, do they think I'm not safe to drive? I've been driving longer than any of them. And now, what am I supposed to do? Get a chauffeur to drive me around or have somebody else do it for me? I'm 78 years old and I should be able to drive anywhere I want to go, anytime I want to.
Hello, this is Gina
And this is Don.
with Focused Healthy Family, and this is podcast number 148. Today, we're talking about independence in later life.
And we're doing things a little differently this year with our podcast. We uh, we we decided to turn our Tuesday tips into our podcast. And so what I'm doing today is I'm actually working with this book here, Caregiver 101 by Mike Collins. And it's one of the tips he puts in here. Uh, and it's the very first tip of the book itself. And I was going to read it and then we'll make a little comment, a little bit of comment on it.
And
Uh,
let me just wish everybody a Happy New Year.
oh yeah, that's true. It is happy.
Happy New Year. And here we go.
So tip number one, each morning you should lie in bed for 60 seconds and do two things. First, do a physical self-assessment. It's the self, it's the stress of caregiving manifesting inside the physical ways. If your jaw hurts first thing in the morning, you may be grinding your teeth at night. If your hands hurt and you may be clenching your fist as you sleep, are you more irritable, nervous, tired, or emotional? The answer to the question is almost always going to be yes. If so, how can you find a positive way to respond to the stress and possibilities lessened in? One answer is to concentrate on the second part of the 60-second focus. Find one good thing about the day to which you can look forward to, even if there is only that the sun is shining or that you are still breathing. Look hard and you can find one good thing about the upcoming day. It's if you can find one good thing, stay in bed for another 60 seconds. And
So
I think
these,
that, go ahead.
I was just going to say, these caregiver tips can apply to anyone,
Yeah,
whether you're
that's true.
caring for a child, um, an aging parent, a spouse, or a combination of the above, right? Starting your day with a little bit of time to just reflect.
Yeah.
You could journal first thing in the morning, just getting your thoughts out. noticing your body, noticing tension that you're feeling, and doing some progressive relaxation where you tense each part of your body and then relax it.
You can do the deep breathing, in through the nose, hold it in for a little bit, then let it out through the mouth. I always call it a check-in, getting yourself kind of aligned with your day before you start out with it. And, they talk about 60 seconds. Yeah, you can add to tapping in. That is true. Um, but, they talk about 60 seconds, which is good. But what I always found too is if you check in with yourself and you find within yourself there's some emotional issues going on or something going on, you can take a few more minutes to help try to calm that down by the breathing and all of that. So I think it's a good comment.
And having something to look forward to. Um, it can be kind of a nugget in your day. I've got these errands to run. I've got to do this, take care of this. Well, then, after that point, I'm going to have a cup of tea and sit and put my feet up for a half hour or whatever you're able to do. Or I'm just going to make my favorite tea or stop at my favorite shop to pick up coffee or tea and have it with me as I run around and do errands, finding a little brightness in the day. Let's share the book and the author again, just so people
Yeah,
know.
it's called Caregiving 101, 100 Ways to Keep Caregiving from Making You Crazy. And it's by Mike Collins. And like I say, we'll be going through this throughout the time. We'll be throwing a few more hints of those out, plus some of the ones we have ourselves. So just something we want to kind of add into our podcast.
And so, welcome to this new year, uh, 2025. It sounds like a science fiction novel. And talking about independence today and what that means. Um, you know, we ran the little scenario of the excitement of when you first get your license and you get keys and you get to be able to have that. I can go out, I can go anywhere I want now, I can drive, I can take myself places, and then your first car adds to it. And flash forward, you're older, your family's concerned about your driving, maybe your eyesight is waning, or um um you're having other mobility problems or memory problems. And, sometimes family just takes the keys away and they don't know where their keys are at, or, to start stepping in to do things so that the person doesn't have to drive, or they sit down and have that conversation with them, which can go many different ways.
Well, and, what I talk about too is it's when you're 16 or 17 or whatever, where you're getting your driver's license, that expands your horizon. Then you have the mileage of the country to drive in if you wanted to. And when you're taking the keys away, you're contractualizing or bringing it down, and that's a whole different thing. Plus, like I said, then you got to think about who's going to drive, when I'm going to get to my appointments, all of that. So there's quite a bit in it. We started to talk about it the other day ourselves when we were talking about independence and how to deal with
Yeah,
it.
I like that you're talking about the world expanding when you're young and you have new opportunities, now, oh, now I can drive. Oh, now I have a car. Oh, now I have a job. I can do more. I have more opportunities. And then that shrinks, or I love your new word, contractualize.
Contractualize.
Your world starts to shrink and your opportunities are minimized. And now, oh, okay, now I'm stuck in my community. Now I'm stuck, in my neighborhood. Now I'm stuck in my home. Oh, now they're putting me in a facility. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and just seeing those limits, and just the first noticing and realizing how that affects people.
Yeah, you don't think about well, I think you talked about, yeah, we really want to try to still make them as independent as possible,
Maintaining independence, what
maintaining independent. Yeah,
finding, what can someone do, what, and some people are more aware of their limits and will more willingly give up car keys, and other people are going to fight it tooth and nail. And if you have someone who's got dementia, and so they don't have a good awareness of their deficits, they're not you realize that they have issues. safety is a big factor then, and then having that conversation is more difficult. My father said that very thing. I've been driving longer than the rest of you. I have more experience than most of these people on the road, I think he said. Who are they to tell me I can't drive now? And uh,
Well, and you talk about, you brought up some other cases of things that happen when they can contractualize, the what I love that word, what um sounds like you got like a whole contract you got to sign here for it, but you talked about things like even things like going to the bathroom, and especially if they're going into a facility, or even when they come out into somebody else's house, they may need some help to go into the bathroom, and all things change there. If they're in the hospital, they may be able to go to the bathroom, most likely not. But then when they get into a facility,
well, it's that, as soon as you hit a certain age, you're worried about falling. Um, don't want you to fall out of bed. Oh, in the hospital, you might be tied to tubes and things. So, they tell you ring for assistance. Well, you got up to go to the bathroom and, maybe if they can come quick enough, you have to find your button. You have to remember you've got to press it. You've got to be able to press it enough. And then you can have the patience to wait. And as we get older, sometimes our bladders are not as strong. And so we might also have to go more frequently. And, we want to get up, take ourselves to the bathroom, right? Nobody wants to have to ask somebody to help them do that. And the rules are different in the hospital than they are at nursing homes and rehab facilities. And there's all these fall risk things that are put into place. And so now all of a sudden, you have to um, be granted permission. They tell you don't go to the bathroom by yourself, don't get up by yourself, press this call button. And like, but I was doing this before. I did this in the hospital. What do you mean you're telling me I can't get up and go? The therapist has to assess me to see if I can take myself to the bathroom. What's that about? And then, they walk in there and they're like, so can I just go? And like, well, we need to wait. We need to see how you're doing. You need to, and that's such a big, uh, it's such a,
is,
I'm getting
is a
bit
dog
by a
bite?
cat. It's, it's such a vital function that we do, right? Unless you're hooked up to a catheter or you have no sense of bladder control, where you're just wearing a brief and not even aware when you have to go to be able, think about when you're a baby, toddlers, and we're potty training them and how important it is to go to the bathroom and not go in your pants. And we put so much effort into teaching kids to do this. We want them to be independent at this. And then all of a sudden, wait. Um,
There we go, contractualizing.
yeah, we don't want you falling. We don't want you getting hurt. I call it the F word. People like, oh, don't even say that. It's people who have fallen are fearful of falling. Maybe they know someone who fell and, you hear stories. Oh, my aunt, she fell and broke her leg and she went in the hospital and she never came out. And, you hear all these kind of horror stories and the real negative outcomes of situations. And these rules are put into place for safety, and yet they're taking away independence from people. There are so many rules put into place in nursing home and rehab centers to not restrain people, because back in the day, if someone was trying to get up, they would soft restraints on them to keep them from getting
Mm,
up and moving. And they decided, we shouldn't be doing that to people. This should not be allowed. So now they labeled this is a restraint and this is a restraint, to the point where even just a short half bed rail that could enable someone to pull themselves over and sit up or just roll in the bed to change their position. Most facilities now are, the state says that's a restraint and you should not have that on their bed. And so it can really limit their
yeah.
mobility. And so things have been kind of taken to extreme, in my opinion. And there are situations where it is a safety hazard. It can be, but yet there's no guarantee. We can't guarantee people aren't going to fall. It happens. People roll out of bed. People, their blood pressure drops and they pass out, or they go to reach for something. they're in a wheelchair and it's not locked and they lean forward and the wheelchair rolls backwards and they topple forward. There's just so many different ways that falls can happen. And, why is it so important as we're older? Our bones can break more easily. Even without a broken bone, a fall, an injury, just the strain on the muscles and the ligaments or hitting your head. You can even have a brain injury from falling and hitting your head. Um, and recovering from that, the older we get, I mean, think about it, Don. We went ice skating a number of years ago, not that long ago, but maybe 10 years ago, and you fell and hit your knee.
It
And
swelled up and
yeah.
it
And
was
if that had
painful,
happened when you were 25, you probably would have gotten up and continued ice skating, right? It wouldn't have been as big a
I
deal.
guess. Yeah.
I remember when we were kids, we lived in Ohio, there was a lake we went and skated on, and my brother was like on the ground more than he was standing, and just flying and falling. And you think about little kids and how easily they fall down and they get right back up again. Their bodies are more flexible. Um, they can recover, from that kind of activity level versus if we're older, we're not as agile or balance cannot be as good as it was. Um, Weakening bones can happen for so many different reasons, causing more likelihood to break. And then just the recovery from that can be a lot slower. Um, and so, there's things that putting into place for safety, like taking someone's keys away. But the reality of as people age, they can have vision issues, they can have coordination issues, reaction time, how quickly you can respond. Yeah, maybe they can get on the road if nobody's on the road and drive and get where they need to go. But what if something happens suddenly, right? Being able to respond and act quickly. And that's why young drivers who don't lack the experience, can have more frequent accidents, but also older drivers, even people over 65. I read an article years ago. I don't have it in front of me, but that even the geriatric population has a higher incidence of accidents even than teenagers. Um, and so these are safety concerns. And yet we have to look at, how are we approaching this? How are we
Yeah. How can we
talking to
change
our
it? Yeah.
loved one? What things can they still do? How can we shift things? How can we find ways to build independence in their lives? And when other
Well,
things are diminishing it.
and when we talked about probably one of the first places to start is listening, being able to listen to first off and just hearing what they have to say, so we understand that. So they have some knowledge of things they want to do or they want to be, get out and do for themselves. Some of those may not happen, but some of those could still find ways of happening and being able to really listen to them and hear what they're saying, I think is important.
So if you have concerns about your loved one, a great way to start would not be like, no, you can't drive anymore, but, hey, mom, can we talk? I have concerns. You have glaucoma, your eyesight's failing, or, um, ever since you broke your arm, your neck doesn't turn as well anymore. You don't have as good use of that arm. I'm concerned of how this can affect things like, you driving, you don't even have to bring up the driving yet, but um, you kind of ease your way into because if you can help them to see, oh, it is a struggle, and that really bothers me when I'm driving, and it makes it really difficult, but how am I going to get my groceries, or how am I going to get to the doctor, or, and if you can have a conversation and get them on board to be like, okay, what can we do differently for them to realize themselves? It's like when you're trying to engage cooperation with children, empowering them to come with their own answers is so much more powerful in them taking ownership for that. And so helping an older person realize their limitations and seeing what they might need help with. Um,
Well, and like you said, is coming from them more than coming from you, at least initially, to get things kind of in a better place.
and you were pointing out the listening part, right?
Hmm.
We're so busy going here, doing this, we need to remember they want to be heard. And sometimes that's all that they need. Oh, you want to drive, and I know you've been driving longer than me, and yeah, you've always been a great driver. And gosh, this sucks. Oh, it's awful that you have this Parkinson's disease, or it's, that you had a stroke, or, that your legs are not, they're numb half the time. You have retinopathy from diabetes, and you don't have good control of your feet and feeling in them. It makes using the pedals hard. Gosh, I hate that. I wish, these weren't issues. I wish we could magically fix that.
Do the fantasy, the finding it in fantasy that we've talked about with on the children's side, filling in times of things when you don't have what they need or what they want, but not downing it right away, but being able to talk them through it. Same can be this way too. Let them talk about some of the things that they'd like to do or want to do, or the ideas that they have, and then work your way through it to figure out. And like I say, a lot of times by putting it in fantasy, you can also make them kind of start to realize some of their own um, things that they can't do as well.
Right, right. Oh, I wish we could just take away your diabetes and take
Yeah.
away this disease and take away this problem. And oh, you never had a stroke and you never broke your arm. And yeah, your eyes are perfectly fine. We get new eyes. Wouldn't that be awesome? And where would you go? What would you do? And just kind of let them feel it out. Or maybe you're a person, doesn't have a lot to say. Just, hey, I hate this. Yeah, it sucks. And you just sit there quietly, and maybe you don't push the issue anymore. And maybe the best way to listen is just learning to
Be quiet.
be
Yeah.
quiet and let them just vent about it. And then, sometimes talking less is more helpful for some people, and some people need to really share stories, or, tell me about the most favorite place you went driving, and tell me, and having those stories, those memories, kind of keeping those alive. Uh,
Well, and letting them also, because you can say it sucks not to do that or be that, but you can also maybe play on some of that of, hey, where's the fun place you used to drive? Hey, let's go drive there, you know. Or if they'd love to visit a European country, well, you may not be able to take them there, but maybe you could find some videos on it or some pamphlets or stuff that you can talk it over and talk through it, so you can still play it out a little bit for them.
Photo albums, reminiscing about the past, just listen to their stories and hearing, what they've done, where they've been, can be just kind of keeping that.
Oh, you're going to look for me for words?
um,
That perspective.
um, Giving them that sense of their life. They've lived a
Yeah.
long life. They've done lots of different things. Look what I've done. I've been able to drive, and I've been able to do all these things. This has been wonderful. And now I can share my stories. And, maybe you can give your grandson, pointers on driving.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you can help them study for their driver's exam, or you can, talk them through things, or, finding other ways to channel their knowledge and their expertise. And
But finding recipes, getting them in the kitchen with you to make a recipe of some sort, or some recipe that's an old one that goes back and
though someone who loves cooking, and maybe they're not safe to cook in the kitchen anymore. Um,
but if
and
you're there with them,
but yeah, okay, will you teach me how to make this, or will you give me the instructions, or will you, talk me through this, whatever it is that they have an interest in, that they want to do. How can you incorporate that? How can you modify it? How can you, okay, you really love to do this before, and, is there any activity you'd like to do? I know for some people, oh, I can't do what I used to do, so I don't want anything to do with it. My dad was into woodworking, and someone gave him a piece of wood to kind of sand or do something simple to. And for him, it was like, no, I can't. I know I can't do what I used to do. I don't. This is too hard. He's envisioning furniture and things that he's made, and so shifting gears. Okay, maybe we want to learn a new hobby or do something different.
yeah, I think that was always a tough part for your dad to see that stuff and know that he could have done that at one point, and to lose some of that was it can be a little tough.
So any kind of hobby or things that people enjoyed, whether it was, they liked golfing or fishing or um, any kind of sport that maybe they even participated in to later years, things like tennis and um, or gardening, getting out down on your hands and knees, taking care of the yard, taking care of farm animals or other things, any kind of activity that now is more challenging for different reasons.
Well, and you also, you've talked a lot of times about how to get different things that can help them. If they, for instance, if their hands were slightly deformed, they may need a different kind of fork or a different kind of
Yeah,
apparatus,
adapting things.
adapting things that
So
so they can still do the thing, but they have to, it takes a little bit more for them to
talking
have.
about the kitchen, they make what's called a rocker knife. It's a one-handed knife. Someone who only has the use of one hand, and you literally rock it back and forth to cut through things. But like you said, adapted utensils with larger grips. They even make a cuff. Someone who has almost no use of their hand but can move their arm. It's called a universal cuff. You can put it on your hand. There's a little slot to slide a toothbrush in, a hairbrush, a pencil, utensils, other things. To be able to use their hands. And this is where, seeking the resources of people around you, finding physical, occupational therapy, speech therapy, other services that could benefit you, whether it's someone coming into the home health services, or going to an outpatient center. Most of the time, all you need to do is ask the primary doctor, can you write an order for this? Finding places to go. If you support groups for different diseases, whether it's Parkinson's, strokes, um, all kinds of Alzheimer's and memory deficits, they'll bring speakers in. And a lot of times they'll bring in someone in the therapy world, an occupational therapist who might talk about adaptive equipment and things, and being able to attend these and ask your questions can be a good resource for you, as can reaching out to me. I've done this for years in my practice as an occupational therapist, and being able to give specific ideas depending on the personality of the person, their interests, their hobbies, what are their limits now, what things are they unaware of that could be that even you might not realize are affecting them. Maybe they stop doing something and you don't know why. Well, let's, dig into that. Let's see what we can do. Some people respond better to a stranger, to a new face, than they do to family. Um, some people don't, whereas I can give you the support and ideas for you to then share with your loved ones. So that's one way. I'd love to be helpful. Don and I, we work together as well to support you in going through this. Like we talked about in the beginning with caregiver tips, supporting this loved one, it's stressing, it's draining, even if they're still living on their own or they're living somewhere. You're the one stepping in to look at different things like their safety and being able to get their groceries and go to doctor's appointments. And it does, it's an extra responsibility. And when you're taking care of other people, you've always got to remember to find time to take care of yourself. Um, I want to just touch base since we're talking about independence today. And if your loved one ever goes for any kind of rehab services, they might use these terms and you might kind of wonder, what does that really mean? So we talk about min assist, mod assist, max assist, dependent, supervision, standby assist, contact guard, independence. So these are levels that we assign, and it shows how much help someone needs. And it's also how we show progress when someone's working in therapy, because that's what the insurance wants to see, that this is beneficial, what they're doing. Why are we paying for these services? What's the point? So we have to have goals. And so someone who's independent, they can, do something without any help. They don't need a cane or walker. They just get up. They can walk up the stairs, walk back down. They don't lose their balance. They can do something in a timely manner and safe. Um, what we call modified independence is maybe they can do that, but they need a walker, or, they um, need rails by the toilet to be able to get up and down, or maybe they need a lift chair to be able to stand. They need something to modify to make it easier for them to do these things. When you talk about supervision, the person can do it, but maybe they need you to give them cues or, to point out reminders or make sure there's nothing on the floor. So this is where, someone's saying, okay, they need supervision during the day. Yeah, they can get up and get dressed, but maybe they'll forget to put both shoes on or they won't tie their laces, and that can be a tripping hazard. This is where you get into people that have some cognitive limitations. Then we have what we call contact guard assist. So, they can stand up, but that's where we talk about gait belts, and you put this belt around their waist and you can hold on to it. You're not really physically helping them, but if they get unsteady, they need a little help to steady themselves. Kind of think about a young toddler learning to walk and they want to hold on to your hand. Then minimal assistance means they're doing at least 75% of the activity. So someone's helping, 20, about up to about 25%. So going to the bathroom. Um, if you're minimal assist, you can stand, you can get up, you can turn, you can go to the toilet. Maybe you can get your pants down okay, but it's a little difficult to pull them back up afterwards, or you need a little bit of help to wipe, minimal assistance. Moderate assistance is you need, the helper does 50% of the task. So maybe you can get on and off the toilet, maybe you can even wipe yourself, but you can't really pull your pants up very effectively. Um, or you need some help to do it. You can do it with one hand, but not the other. Then you get into maximal assistance. And this is where the helper is doing 75% or more of the effort. So you physically have to help them stand and sit on the toilet. They're participating in it, but they need that continuous help throughout the process. And then dependent, you know, you're putting them on a bedpan in bed, that you have to use a lift device to get them from one chair to another. Um, you're having to really do most of the activity for them. And sometimes maybe they need two people. We see this a lot. Someone's been in the hospital, they're very weak. Um, they've had falls, whatever. Having two people there to help them get up and move. When it requires two people to assist someone in the therapy world, that's deemed as a dependent because it's, even though they're participating, it's taking it two people to do that. So just understanding, what that means as we're talking about independence. And if, your people are in a meeting and they're saying they're going to assist with this and they're, to know what that means and always, ask questions about it. And
Well, that I think kind of wraps up our podcast for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We'd ask you to, if you're wherever you're listening, to make sure to try to leave a comment. We really would love to have comments. Let us know what you'd like to see us talk about, what areas that you're dealing with.
what
Uh,
other questions you have on these topics? Because as it's January now, we can do Ask the OT again, where you can send in your questions or join us live. Um, to be able to discuss, different situations and how you can support your aging loved one, or maybe how you can manage your family in juggling that situation where you have multiple responsibilities.
you
And
can find all of our work that we do, the consulting that Gina talked about, where we can help you out on our website, focusedhealthyfamily.com. You can find us on Facebook at Focus Healthy Family, Instagram at Focus Healthy Family 1, YouTube at Focus Healthy Family. You can join us every Thursday for our podcast. And know that I have my own sessions I do about twice a month. I do tapping sessions, helping people bring down the anxiety that they're dealing with. We have one coming up on June 7th at 7 p.m.
back up January 7th.
I'm sorry. Oh, I got to get in the new year here.
January 7th.
January 7th and January 28th, both times at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And if you'd like to connect with Don to individually do some tapping, the group tapping is a way to learn about it. Come on. Sometimes you have several people on there, sometimes you don't. Who knows? You might get a one-on-one session. But to learn more about it, you can also see videos of tapping on our website. And yeah, please share this information. share the links. You can watch us on YouTube or, many of us on the go all the time, anywhere you listen to a podcast. Share it with other people and let us know how we can support you.
And so remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.